What if I told you that some of the most powerful ideas shaping the modern world were created by a man who never fit in, a man who didn't follow trends, he bet against them. While everyone chased popularity, he chose isolation. While Silicon Valley chased optimism, he searched for uncomfortable truth. He didn't want to build the next big thing. He wanted to build what everyone else was too afraid to imagine. This is not a story about motivation. This is a story about thinking differently. This is the story of Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel was born in 1967 in Frankfurt, Germany. But his childhood didn't stay still. His family moved constantly, from Germany to the United States to South Africa. Every move meant new schools, new rules, new social circles, and Peter struggled. He was brilliant, but socially, he was an outsider. While other kids played sports, Peter preferred books, chess, and logic puzzles. He didn't blend in. He observed. He noticed patterns others ignored, and slowly, something formed inside him. A belief that would guide his entire life. If you want to understand the world, you must stand slightly apart from it. Peter Thiel entered Stanford University in the late 1980s, a place full of ambition, ideas, debates. But even here, he felt different. Stanford celebrated consensus. Peter questioned it. He studied philosophy and law, read deeply, thought deeply. Especially one philosopher, René Girard, who believed human desire is copied, not original. That people chase things because others chase them. This idea hit Peter hard, because if Girard was right, then most people weren't thinking independently at all. They were just following crowds. From that moment on, Peter Thiel committed to one principle: never follow the herd. At Stanford, Peter co-founded a student newspaper, not to be popular, but to challenge dominant opinions. It was controversial, often criticized, sometimes attacked. But Peter didn't back down, because to him, discomfort was a signal, a sign that something important was being questioned. This wasn't arrogance. It was intellectual independence, a trait that would later define every major decision he made. Peter graduated and went to Stanford Law School. On paper, everything looked perfect, but inside, something felt wrong. Law was about rules, precedent, stability. Peter was interested in creating new systems, not defending old ones. He worked briefly as a corporate lawyer, then as a derivatives trader, then as a speechwriter. Each job taught him something important. Prestige does not equal purpose. He was successful, but unsatisfied, and that tension pushed him toward a different path. In the late 1990s, the internet was still young. Most people saw it as a convenience. Peter saw it as leverage. A small group of people could now influence millions. But instead of copying existing businesses online, Peter asked a dangerous question. What has everyone agreed on that might be wrong? That question led him to co-found his first company, Confinity, a small startup working on digital payments. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't obvious, but it solved a real problem. And soon, something unexpected happened. Confinity merged with another company. Together, they became PayPal. At the time, people didn't trust money online. Banks laughed at the idea. Experts said it would fail. But Peter Thiel believed the future was already here, just unevenly distributed. PayPal grew fast, faced massive resistance, legal battles, fraud issues. Yet Peter thrived in conflict, because conflict meant he was doing something new. By 2002, PayPal was acquired. Peter Thiel walked away with tens of millions of dollars. But more importantly, he walked away with something else, a reputation. The PayPal team scattered. Some founded YouTube. Some founded LinkedIn. Some built Tesla and SpaceX. People later called them the PayPal Mafia. But Peter Thiel wasn't interested in fame. He was interested in the next contrarian bet, a bet that would define his legacy, a bet on people before the world believed in them. Peter Thiel didn't succeed because he followed Silicon Valley. He succeeded because he challenged it. After PayPal, Peter Thiel didn't rush to start another company. Instead, he watched. He looked for something rare, a founder who didn't want approval. In 2004, a young college student walked into his life. Hoodie, intense eyes, awkward confidence, Mark Zuckerberg. While others saw Facebook as a toy, Peter saw something deeper. Not a website, a social graph, a digital map of human relationships. So Peter Thiel wrote a check for $500,000. No board control, no safety net, just belief. It became one of the most profitable investments in modern history. But to Peter, it wasn't luck. It was pattern recognition. Next, Peter Thiel built a company most investors avoided, Palantir Technologies. While Silicon Valley chased ads and apps, Palantir worked with governments, intelligence agencies, and defense. The goal? To detect patterns in chaos, to stop fraud, to prevent threats, to analyze massive data. Critics called it dangerous. Supporters called it necessary. Peter called it inevitable, because his belief was simple. The future belongs to those who understand information better than anyone else. Palantir didn't grow fast. It grew quietly. And that made people uncomfortable. In 2014, Peter Thiel released a book, 0 to 1. It wasn't about hustle. It wasn't about inspiration. It was about truth. One idea stood out. Competition is for losers. Peter argued that real success comes from monopolies, not through force, but through uniqueness. Doing something so different that no one else can compete, from 0 to 1. Not copying what works, but creating what doesn't exist. The book became required reading in startups, universities, and boardrooms. But once again, Peter wasn't trying to be liked. He was trying to be right. Peter Thiel entered territory most tech leaders avoided: politics. He publicly supported controversial ideas, challenged mainstream narratives, spoke openly without filters. The backlash was immediate. Friends distanced themselves. Media criticism increased. But Peter didn't retreat, because he believed truth is not democratic. To him, progress came from clear thinking, not consensus. This made him one of the most debated figures in modern technology, loved by some, rejected by others, ignored by none. Peter Thiel doesn't chase trends. He doesn't tweet often, doesn't sell motivation, doesn't explain himself. Instead, he funds ideas others won't touch. Radical science, long-term research, unpopular questions. Because Peter believes the biggest breakthroughs come from places people refuse to look. His real investment isn't money. It's time. Thinking decades ahead while others think in quarters. Peter Thiel's life isn't a formula. It's a challenge. A challenge to ask yourself, what do I believe that others don't? Am I thinking or copying? Am I building something new or just competing? His lesson is uncomfortable because it requires courage to stand alone, to be misunderstood, to risk being wrong. But that's the price of originality. Peter Thiel didn't change the world by fitting into it. He changed it by questioning it, not by following paths, but by creating new ones. In a world obsessed with noise, Peter Thiel reminds us, the most powerful ideas often begin in silence.
If this story made you think differently about markets, intelligence, or discipline, take a moment to like the video. It helps this story reach others who value depth over noise. If you enjoy long-form documentary-style stories about finance, history, and ideas that quietly change the world,